and justice for all.
We're going to open the select board meeting of July 24th, 2019. Okay, we need a motion to sign the warrants.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Oops, sorry.
Need a motion to approve the minutes of July 10th as written.
So moved.
Second. All in favor? Let's see now. Old business. Rogers Island Conservation. So can we have John and Kyle, you want to come up and, you're on.
I wasn't expecting to get on that quickly.
There you go.
It's because you're old
We've got
business.
chicken in the oven.
Yeah, maybe my wife will get photographed. Okay, so I apologize for the amount of time this has taken, but as I've explained before, it's not something we take lightly when we're helping you to protect property in perpetuity. This is a permanent decision. It has to be right for the town. We've had a lot of work to do, as you've probably seen from some of the documents. So you should have seen by now the conservation plan, which is the plan on how it will be conserved, with recommendations on how to manage the property. You'll have seen the legal verbiage from the conservation easement. That is the legally binding document that ties in the restrictions and conditions on the island. We got advice on the building of that from several sources, including the Maine Audubon, where the primary purpose of protecting the island is for bird sanctuary. Let's see, what else do we have in that packet?
These are all the final drafts, right, John, that you gave me in this book?
Yes, you don't sign drafts.
So the only discussion point that I had with Renee last time we spoke was to close the issue on whether or not you want to allow or keep the option of camping in the future on the island and fires in a fire pit. I think we've pretty much concluded definitely no fires, and I think the feeling is no camping. Correct me if I'm wrong. There's a couple of options with the camping. You can completely eliminate the option of camping in the easement, or you can have it at the town's discretion in the future. So you can prohibit it now, but provided it's not in the easement, later on in the future you can
never open
revisit
it back up.
Yeah, but that comes down to what are your feelings right now? Do you want to be able to open it up 20, 30 years from now to camping? That's your decision to make before I put that heavy restriction on the easement.
Well, some of my concerns would be that if you take a boat over there and you're camping for the night and you pull it up or you don't tie it up right or it's not anchored right and a storm comes by and you lose your boat, then you're stuck there. I don't know. I don't see camping overnight, but I would not want to be the select board that takes it out of the equation.
Yeah.
So I think your decision is fair, because at some point down the road, maybe you would want
Yes.
that open, and so it's just giving an option to reopen
Yeah.
that at some point.
Yeah.
That's probably the smart thing to do.
So my recommendation would be just to make a slight amendment to the easement with a pretty specific definition of where you would allow camping, to confine it to a certain area. There's only really one area of the island that lends itself to a camp spot anyway. And thankfully that's away from the eagle nesting site, and it's not that practical to
But
get
no
to the eagle
fires,
nesting
right?
site. Again, that's your decision to make.
They have those little
My
gas
personal
things that
advice
you can-
would be, your primary purpose is bird sanctuary.
Yes.
Fires do not lend themselves to that.
Plus the
smoke.
You know, the occasion that a fire on a windy night could get loose,
Yeah, no.
where would you go? I mean, do you realize who
No,
could come?
I think
Yeah.
no
What would you
fires.
do?
It's more densely forested than many islands. The
Yes.
risk of fire spreading is severe.
Does it have that in there now, that, no
there's
fires?
Yeah, it's in the easement right now, so if you're all in favor of keeping that, my recommendation would be no fires. Yeah.
And you have to remember what's her name said, you know, make the birds happy.
I think the birds would agree with no fire.
Yes.
I think
You
they
don't
have-
want
the
to
they
fires
have
that would
final
make them
say.
nervous to
Yes.
fly away.
Yes.
Yeah.
But the issue with the camping is, I mean, again, some people could argue camping's not compatible with the bird sanctuary. I don't quite agree with that. We have camping on one of our islands that has a bird population. It can be managed
Depends on
properly.
who's camping.
And
Yeah.
who is gonna go check on it?
Yeah, and I think the reason I would recommend keeping that option open in the future is in case you partner with MIDA on them really managing a campsite on the island. Main Island Trails Association.
I think that I would like to keep the option of like permission only.
Okay.
I
Yeah, we
think
should.
that might be,
Yeah, so a
The best way to
town
go.
issued permit,
yes.
and we'll write in there a designated camping spot, if
Yeah.
you're okay with
So
that.
you want it open now for camping?
No, I think,
I thought he
no
was
matter
just
when,
saying at some
you
point.
know, it's,
Yeah.
yeah, down the road you would have.
So we would say, an example of the wording would be, the town of Lubec reserves the right to issue camping permits at a time that it sees that is suitable for the
Yeah,
island.
that's perfect.
And it will be
Like
at
a
a
group of
designated
birders or
area.
something like that.
Yeah, yeah.
No, that'd be perfect.
I'll tell you, being experienced in this industry, it's not all what it's cracked up to be. And it's gonna cause a lot of paperwork
For
for
camping.
people coming in
Yeah.
and applying for, you know, permission to go out there. I would not
Well, we're not
go
doing
with
it
that.
now. He's
would-
got
Yeah,
an
it's just-
Yeah, it's
option
just
down
be-
the road,
yeah, it would be,
a different
It's
select
just gonna,
board.
it's gonna cause a
I
lot of
agree.
headache with
It's
the
a little
people
tiny
here.
island
Right.
of birds, you just go for the day, take a little hike for a couple hours, come leave. That's what I see.
That's
But
my-
if
that's
you
my-
would unlock it out right now, there's no one doing that.
Mhm.
For
Yeah.
the rest of eternity, there would be no camping
Yeah.
if we put it in easement at this stage. It's maybe better to, in the future, if there is an issue, to amend the easement to completely eliminate camping. And by permit only, it gives you an opportunity to educate
Yeah.
someone before they go out there. And at the end of the day, the people that are gonna do wrong on the property, they're gonna go camp there regardless of what the rules are. We know how that works. So the best we can do in that situation is manage it through good stewardship, keep an eye on it with relevant law enforcement.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay, so that
Would that
was
be
my,
Marine Patrol?
Marine Patrol or Sheriff's Department, whoever. Yeah, whoever at the time has the resources to handle it.
Maybe we need to we need to go through the select board. Joanne doesn't want camping. Jason?
I just
At
wanna
all,
keep jobs.
she doesn't want to put it
I
in.
wanna keep jobs open 30 years down the road if they wanna do it. That's one thing.
And you've already said that. What about you, Dan? You already said you wanted to keep an
Well,
option.
I am thinking that hypothetically, I mean, what if someone like Bill Schlesinger were to go out there to do some bird studies over a period of time? I would think that would be a perfect person to say, you shouldn't go camping, observe, whatever, but the regular person, no.
Yeah.
Dan?
Unless the paperwork gets too crazy, I mean, I don't think there should be any out there, but if we're gonna do it by permission only or something. So I think I'm probably more Joanne on this one, but that'd be all right if it's something we can.
I'm
don't
only
live
saying
alone,
it
right?
because I have,
Right.
for 38 years, been in the camping industry, and I'll tell you,
You don't want
you're
campers
not,
there.
you're not.
You're not gonna want campers.
And-
What about
and I
by
still don't think
for-
it's-
for-
And I'm not
own-
saying they're all bad,
How
I'm not
about
saying
for
they're all.
educational purposes,
But
very
one-
limited?
One bad, warrant
Research or
ruins the whole
education
damn.
Again,
opposed
that
to
would
just
be,
your
yeah,
average Joe
that
wanting
would be
camping.
under a permit.
That would be from
In your
us.
permitting process that the town develops, you can put those restrictions in your own permitting process. That will be up to you to develop your process with your rules on who gets a permit and who doesn't. We're not gonna tell you how to run your own permissions. It's just, if you don't have it in easement as an option, it's done forever.
It's not in there now, correct?
Right now, it says no camping, but we can change the wording of that, to by.
So if we don't touch this, we have a final easement to sign, if you don't have to change anything?
Yeah.
You know what, I'm gonna
However,
step back, I'm gonna go with Joanne on it.
I would not advise you to sign it tonight. I wouldn't advise signing anything tonight. You need to run this by your legal counsel, to see if they're comfortable
This
with
is
it.
the trust?
I would run the easement by them, the conservation easement. They don't need to see the conservation plan. That's our management document.
This is declaration of trust.
But
So
where
this is where we
where
need
this is
money.
such a binding document, I would really advise that you have your legal counsel review it, and then if they're okay with it, we set up a time when you can all sign it.
Do we have money set aside for that?
I believe that,
That would come out of your
Water,
funds
yeah.
for that you currently have, and it wouldn't be that much, I wouldn't imagine. And I think our own lawyer is charging us a couple hundred to review it. So it's a couple hundred for the peace of mind. And you can show your taxpayers you've done the due diligence and that it's passed the legal test. So,
That's good. Now, what's going on with the money, in perpetuity? How's that working
okay,
out?
so that was my second thing I came prepared to discuss. You have quite a few options with Maine Community Foundation. As you know from the start, that's what we recommended, that you use Maine Community Foundation. There are several options at Maine Community Foundation. One option is you can put a good portion of the funds into an agency agreement. And with an agency agreement, you can cancel that at any time and pull those funds out of it. However, I know some of you are concerned about that being the case in the future, somebody challenging that money, taking it out and using it for something other than the island. So based on what I've heard from some of you, that may not be favorable. I know there's a couple of you that do want that flexibility to be able to pull it out in the future. At least a portion of it, like I mentioned at the last meeting, at least the 15,000 really needs to be in a designated fund. That guarantees that the stewardship fees will be there in the future, and no one can touch a designated fund. If you were to put the whole amount in designated funds, you can pull from that annually to pay the town
It's an
pilot.
interest.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it
and
generates
you
revenue.
can tap into the interest, not.
I thought that's what we were
Yeah,
leaning toward.
We
Yeah.
typically pull down 4% annually
Yeah.
from our investments. Unless they perform really badly, then we leave them alone. With that 4%, you can pay yourself being the town, pilot or payment in lieu of taxes for that property. So the income that it generates doesn't necessarily have to be used on island-specific projects, such as picnic tables and everything, because there's going to be years we don't need to do anything out there. But you can pull annually to pay yourselves what you've lost in tax revenue from the island. Granted, it's going to be nowhere near what the island would generate if they built camps all over it, but we know that's not what the town wants to do. So my advice would be designated funds. But I would feel more comfortable if you spoke to MCF. That way you're getting their independent answer rather than me trying to convince you that MCF funds are the way to go.
Yeah, it was one of the things I was gonna talk to you about, and I just never got around to it. Because they will come and tell you, because we did it at the library, and we've always been happy, you know.
Yeah.
They're very
Is that what the
reliable.
library trust is, and the
Yeah.
community foundation?
Yeah,
And so you can revisit the interest rates depending on,
Yes.
you know, what's going on federally?
But it's doing you no justice in a CD right now.
No,
that's
It
right,
really
no,
isn't.
that's
You-
right.
You can't pull down annually the equivalent of pilot.
Mm-hmm.
There's not really any security with that money. So it really needs to be invested better than a CD.
that's right, I agree.
Yeah, and like I said before, we can't do this agreement unless at least a portion of it is in a designated fund. Yeah, because in the future, a future select board could say, we're not gonna pay anything for stewardship,
Yeah.
and then nobody can go out and monitor it.
Mhm.
Make sure that all the easements in compliance and that violations such as illegal camping are not taking place, et cetera.
So if the principal is put in Maine Community Foundation, is the stewardship gonna be coming out of the interest on an annual basis? Or were you suggesting
There's
some other?
several ways that can be approached, with a designated fund that would be set up, specifically for stewardship. We would submit a letter annually for, highlighting what our expenses are.
And you give us an estimate, you have given us
Yeah,
an
I've given you a
estimate?
budget already.
So I thought we were gonna put the entire amount in a product, a financial product that would generate income that would keep it going where the principal wouldn't be touched and in perpetuity, which is what I thought in perpetuity was.
And I think that's what MCF does.
That was what you'd originally indicated
Yeah.
you were
But I
swaying
didn't
towards,
already-
but then there were a couple of people in town that raised
Oh.
objections to it being locked
And
into
who
a
was
Rogers
that?
Island
Oh,
specific.
come on.
No, but what was that?
Think about
No,
it.
no.
Who would object? Who would say we've done that before?
And I'm not here to throw
Well, I
town
don't
members
know,
under the
but
bus.
not anybody on this board, right?
No,
No,
I think
well,
we're pretty much
not
in agreement.
anyone
Well,
here.
then, I guess it's up
I
to
have,
us.
I'm fine with it, I'm fine
Yeah.
with, you know, doing that, I
Yeah.
think it's a way of
The
at least getting
that
a
lady
portion of our
wanted the
taxation.
birds
our
taken
taxes.
care of and let them,
Yeah.
we should abide by.
Yeah, and I think this is a very responsible
Yes.
way of doing it.
think
But
so.
I would challenge anyone to argue that you've made an irresponsible decision or whatever in investing it with MCF. Because if we go back to the intent of the will, and how that
Yes.
money was bequeathed to the town, it's really the appropriate thing to do in my opinion.
I agree.
And so, do you think that, let's say at 4%, what is it, is there 80,000 left or 75, 80? 80?
Close to 80.
80, so 4% of 80 is 3,500,
200 somewhere out there.
Yeah.
3,200? Is that enough for
That's
taking care of
that's
the?
just a recommended, a demonstration set of numbers that MCF gave us on
Okay,
potential
Weren't you recommending
revenues.
15,000 a year?
15 was for the designated fund,
Right.
which you can't touch that.
Okay.
That would be for
So that's just
stewardship.
the initial investment.
Yeah,
No, I think
we're talking
that
two
was a
different
minimum
things.
amount that we would need to invest to be
Oh,
able to
okay.
get, to be able to
So that's a
guarantee.
one-time
that-
15,000
yeah.
in a designated fund.
And the only
I don't-
reason
I
we
don't
got to,
understand
initially when I started discussions with some of you, it was, you were all fine with, yeah, put it all in MCF,
Yes.
put it all in
Right.
a designated fund. And then we have, as you've seen in the documents, a 3-person committee, 2 Lubec, 1 from DCC.
I'm still fine with that.
I'm
And they
fine with
decide
that
how
too.
it gets spent.
I don't know where it changed.
But it,
People calling.
yeah, people called and were disgruntled about
We didn't hear it.
locking in the whole amount.
I'm fine with the whole
Well,
amount.
they can run for office and come up here and complain.
Yeah.
I think it needs to be
And then every,
protected.
time when taxation comes around, what we would do is send MCF.
Yep, send
A
a
bill?
request for the
A request
4%. They'll send you statements. In the statement, it will highlight how much you can draw down.
Okay.
Without
Um,
touching the
So
principal.
they'd
Yeah.
write a check for town of Lubec.
But we also have to pay for the stewardship out of that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, no,
Which
I
is minimal,
understand that.
if you look at our numbers,
Yeah.
it's.
Because, I mean, we're not getting anything out of it now. I
No.
mean,
So-
that's
Total,
nothing.
total projected
had for
annual
years.
cost, $191.
Oh,
And that
so,
was a worst case scenario.
that's
Well,
perfect.
Now, I will say that there was, what, 30-something thousand left after a portion of it was designated for another project in town? And
Yeah.
it's grown to 80,000. I mean, it hasn't done nothing over the
Yeah.
years.
Oh, well, no, I mean,
Yeah.
it's
So, and plus it doesn't mean that the interest rates won't go up. I
Well,
mean,
and
they have gone up in
if
the
you
past.
don't draw down annually, it will continue to grow.
Right.
And it will generate more and more revenue, and then you can pull down a bigger portion of the revenue.
Right.
Or it will go in
I
undesignated
wonder what
funds
percent of
afterwards.
interest they run on, basically, is it market rate, is it
we should have
It's
something
like
for
anything with the
Like a
stock
bank.
market, it's,
market rate?
it doesn't have quite as
Why?
high a return as some high-risk
Mhm.
accounts, but
This comes up
the
to them.
investments are
They
lower risk,
They do.
so they're not as susceptible to global trends,
What they do.
and they're ethical investments. So you're not investing in weapons systems
Yeah.
for Saudi
And it's
Arabia or
very
whatever.
Maine.
That's very good.
Chemical
I'm glad you
warfare.
brought that up. No terrorist activities.
Yeah, it's all ethically invested.
Yes.
And it does give you some eligibility for grants as well.
Yeah.
I'm putting in for an MCF grant right now, so,
They
I'm
they
fine
give a
with all
lot of
of it going in.
infrastructure grants.
yeah.
So we'll take your suggestions and we will be read by the legal counsel and then hopefully be able to sign it, not the annual meeting for the next one, right? 20,
Yeah. Doesn't the CD
21st.
expire, or we're locked into the CD until December of this coming year, right?
Yeah,
Does
I
that
think you
change
and I had
things?
discussed the penalties would be minimal. I would recommend you look into what the penalties would be. If it's no more than a couple $100, I would recommend you get it into MCF as quickly as possible.
So maybe we can have them come to the 21st, August 21st meeting. And then, Rachel suggested we have the Community Foundation come. I'd be interested
Maybe
in
not
that.
at the select board meeting, but a private, maybe just us.
Yeah, you probably want to do a private
Yeah.
meeting where they can really go into detail.
Sure,
I could have brought them with me tonight, but it would be quite a lengthy
Yeah.
discussion.
yeah.
Yeah, because you do have several options,
I think they're good people to know.
yeah.
Well,
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so like I said, the recommendations are you run the easement by your legal counsel. I will get you the amended one either tomorrow or Friday with
What's
the
the-
camping issue.
I thought we
resolved.
decided we weren't doing camping.
I thought you.
Was there, you went with Joanne, did you not?
Yeah.
And I'm going
Okay,
with
so
Joanne.
you're doing no camping? So we're okay with it worded as is?
I think
Okay.
we're
Want a
opening a can of
motion?
worms.
Motion.
Okay.
We already agreed once to do it.
And then there's other islands people can camp on it.
Yes.
Yeah, so.
I'm just afraid
No,
of
I think you're,
garbage and
I think,
Fire.
camping.
fire.
I'm a little tiny island, let them go visit for the day.
Okay,
Yeah,
so yeah,
the
you
birds
can,
would not
you
be
can
happy.
run that easement by your legal counsel as is,
Okay.
then if you're okay with
Good.
that.
Good.
Yeah.
All right, very good. I think Barbara had a question.
I know $80,000 seems like a lot that's going to go into some fund, Maine Community Foundation or whatever. I just heard Renee say that at one time $30,000 was taken out for another project.
No, 30,000 was left.
After
Okay.
other monies was
30
spent.
And it's now grown to 80,
Yes.
okay, which is good. But depending upon when this money was put in there and what CDs have fallen off. I can look back from the Historical Society when they were getting 7, 8%. Now they're down to 1 if you're lucky. So my question to everybody on the board and these two gentlemen is, if Maine Community Foundation or whoever is investing this money, if the areas that they're investing in don't do well and it starts to dwindle, how do we replenish it so that we still have the stewardship and we still get taxes from that? Where's that money gonna come from? If hypothetically, the bottom falls out of everything and we can't recoup enough to start building it back up.
Well, Barbara, I think that's why we're having Maine Community Foundation come to speak to us
Yeah.
about how their financial products work. And is there a term, can we pull out, and I think those are good questions.
Yeah,
I'm
I
just
want to
gonna
be
ask
able
them
to-
that.
And I'm not gonna say that's never gonna happen,
Yes.
we
But
don't
we
know
wanna
what
be able
kind
to
of
figure it
economy
out.
we're going
Yeah.
into, but I can tell you this, we have $1.6 million invested with them. We haven't seen
You
it
have a
come
lot
out.
more, I guess, to start out.
Yeah, well, we've invested with them for 33 years
Yeah.
now without any problems.
And I understand the market is cyclical, so it
Yeah.
goes up and down. But I have worked with Renee recently about the cemeteries where people left money for perpetuity to take care of it. And she's like, well, we spent that money years ago, now the town's paying for it. So that's why my concern was, okay, if the bottom should fall out, we don't know, where does the money come from to help bring
Well,
it back?
the cemetery is a little different in that you have maintenance that you have to do at the cemetery. If the account has a bad year and the value drops a little, you just don't do work that year and you don't pull down from it.
Yeah, we
And
will.
then it will recover
Who will
in
do the
a
maintenance
budget
over
year.
there? Your organization?
Well, most of the maintenance will be in joint effort with MIDA, Main Island Trails Association. And most of the maintenance is gonna be cleanup. So a lot of that will be volunteer effort, overseen by us. So you're not talking any significant expense for that.
Well, I respect what the board's concern is, if people are on there, because we have, through no-so trash removal, we have volunteer containers all around town for people to throw their trash. That island is out there, and if nobody picks it up and puts it into something, and somebody doesn't go get it, it's gonna be in the water, And as we all know, Maine has just passed no plastics and everything else, and we'll see all this stuff floating out there,
Yeah.
and that won't be good either, so
Well,
that's.
right now you're having a settling cylinder sitting on the beach over there, which needs to be removed. But in terms of general trash, there isn't much on the island at the moment.
That's my concern at the moment.
Yeah.
Even with picnic tables, not everybody picks up, believe me. Anyone, Joanne probably at the campground, or Dan by the ice cream, or anybody else, you can go around and see, well, they may have thought, but they left bottles behind, they left paper cups behind, or whatever. I thank you for answering my questions.
Yeah. But Maine Community Foundation will answer that better than I can. But I can tell you from personal experience, we haven't had a problem. But I'm not going to sit here and tell you it couldn't be a problem. Investing is always
Risky.
some element of risk. Maine Community Foundation is less risky than any other that we've explored, and that's why it's not quite as high a revenue as other investments. It's less risky.
It's more conservative.
Yeah.
Well, thank you. I appreciate you coming down,
Thanks.
and so we'll let you know when it's been reviewed and we can
Okay.
sign things.
Do you have a contact for me at NCF that you can email me?
Yeah, I will have him contact you tomorrow.
Okay, thank you.
Yep, okay.
Thank you very much.
Yeah,
Thank you, John, thanks, John.
Good, thank you.
I'll send this off to the lawyer.
Yeah, we do it.
Make sure she does conservation, because that's a specialty on lawyers.
I'm waving with Freddie.
I'm sure that is what she
Talk to
does.
Freddie.
Or she gets
Freddie,
it to the right
Shirley, love you.
person. Okay, next one, right? We have a liquor license renewal.
Yes, we do.
So, is this a renewal?
Yes.
And nothing's changed, you're asking for the same thing? Wow, a whole year's gone by?
Almost, next month.
Wow.
That's pretty good. So,
Barring none, I make a motion, we renew the liquor
we need
license.
blue
for
pen?
town.
Second, yeah.
We need a blue pen. And we need to pass this. Make a motion that we pass the liquor license to
Yes, done
Dragonfly.
Already- already
All in
done.
favor? Yep.
Huh?
Pick it up tomorrow, right, copies? Yep, original, whatever they
So I
need.
come up tomorrow and just grab it?
You got it.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, is this from Capital CD? Oh,
No, you're on the bill grant.
oh. So I would like actually written signed authorization to submit to the build grant. I read somewhere in fine print that the town needed to authorize the submittal, although we've talked about it for a year and a half. So this is the Lubec Select Board authorizes Carol Dennison to submit a build grant and on behalf of the town.
Just bring it over to the side.
Okay, all in favor? There you go. I can sign it. Thank you. And you're gonna guard this with your life, right? Just in case we do get the money.
Yeah, Jason, there's a 5% thing down here at the bottom.
Oh, there. Yes, and let me just, there is no fee for the grant being written, zero, other than the stipend that is given to me by the town taxpayers. All the money is going into the safe harbor if we get money. And it's reimbursable, which means you have to pay it and then get money back. So I won't be submitting a bill and neither will Julie. Maybe a pizza.
We think she protests.
I'll have a pizza with you, Julie. What?
We think she protests too much.
Well, there's a lot of people in town who think
I
I'm getting
know.
like $1 million,
I know.
so,
Yeah.
how about nothing?
We all know you're not.
Yeah.
You
Thank
should, but you're not.
Thank you.
Interest from this capital?
Okay, so we have a capital CD, that's the title of it. Each year, the interest, at one time or another in some meeting, it was decided on how the interest would be broken down into what fund. And currently it funds 3 different places. One is the topic of discussion tonight, which is the sheriff's sinking fund. And that was the fund that we closed, and we bought the public works truck out of it, and it was no longer needed, this sheriff's sinking fund. So we're trying to find out,
What to do with the
what to do with that.
$164?
Right, do you wanna put into the capital reserve that there is growing? The total amount right now is 17,862.
In
Look at
capital
this.
reserve?
Yep,
And what about airport?
airport has 15,840.
I don't think the airport needs any
I
more
agree.
money.
Or is there another fund that it should be going into? I don't know, I'm just bringing it to
I
you
think
guys.
road improvement.
Yes.
Our
We're
roads.
talking about $164 a year that could
Oh.
go into something.
Either that or capital reserve.
Oh,
Yeah,
I
I
thought you were
think
talking
so.
about the whole thing, the whole
Yes.
17.
No,
16.
No,
No,
just
this is just the breaking up
164.
of interest
Okay.
that will build
okay.
up over.
Yeah. We have been blindsided so frequently by something new that's needed on the
Capital,
roads.
capital
Yeah.
reserve, don't you think?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, so put
Yeah.
that
Yes.
third of where, that breakup
Well,
will go
actually,
into
it's
capital.
59, 29, and 12. So
Right.
we're fif-
Right.
So you're gonna take 59% of it. I said, and while we're voting, I would like to, if are you guys looking at this thing
I
here?
don't even see it.
59% was
Oh,
going,
okay.
of the interest was going to share, 29 to capital reserve, and 12 to airport. I think all of it should go to capital reserve
Mm-hmm,
if
I
we're
agree.
making a vote.
So
Yep.
you're gonna have nothing for the airport?
Yes, not,
So
so
you're gonna have
they've
that
got
tax rate.
15,000, it's just been improved, and 3 or 4 people use it.
Okay.
So I think it
Thank
needs to go to capital reserve.
All right, so
I will
Make a
make a
motion.
motion, we put it into
Capital reserve.
the whole amount.
Second,
Second.
all in favor?
100%.
I mean, you can leave that in there.
It's called the capital CD, so
There we
it's all
go.
capital reserve.
Mm-hmm.
That's right.
And the total of it was what, 17?
That's just what's in the capital reserve right now, yeah, 17,
And there's
862, 88.
And we had the similar amount in the sheriff's one, but we used it to buy a truck or
Yeah.
something, some piece of equipment.
Yeah.
Okay, where are we? Getting all lost here. Shore and Harbor, I need permission to sign the contract for the Shore and Harbor Planning Grant that we got for $30,000. It's for geotech survey for
Oh,
Safe
yes.
Harbor.
Let's-
But I didn't want to just sign a contract
Yeah,
and send it to
yeah.
me without getting your permission.
Mhm. Yes.
All in
Carol
favor?
signed? Seconded with Rachel.
Pick somebody. Sign sewer commitment.
Yes, there was another account that had to be adjusted, so it has to have its own.
Motion to sign the sewer commitment.
So moved.
All
Said that so easily.
I know you're good at that. You don't want to repeat
Well,
that.
And I'll go with the flow
It's so
there.
easy, it just rolls right out.
Yeah, we'll go with the flow, I'll second that.
All in favor?
So moved.
I don't know. And this is why they call us the Gong Show. I can see why. But that preceded me, right, Joanne?
Yes.
That did, honey. That's been going on for a
Oh.
long
I know.
time.
That was a kid.
Well, one of the participants is moving to the school board, I'm thinking.
There you go. Truer words were never
I
spoken.
just have a couple announcements and other business. to do.
Okay.
Absentee ballots are available until August 1st. That'll be the last day for the annual election, which is Tuesday, August 6th, here, 8 to 6, 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. And then town meeting is August 7th at 6, but before that, at 5:30, there is a public hearing for the ordinance change on the building notification, and at 5 o'clock, the selectmen's meeting will be at 5, and that is when you'll be opening the bids for the tax acquired property. There was an ad went out that it was gonna be opened at the 6 o'clock meeting, but we changed it to 5, but the ad already went out, so we're trying to get everybody, to let everybody know
You don't have any
that
bids yet?
they'll be opening
Okay.
up at,
What, do we have a bid?
yes, yep.
Okay, that's good.
Yeah,
Is there a propane tank over
there's
here?
one over here.
Huh?
There's one over here.
I smell propane coming through that window.
I smell propane.
That's not good. That was the first one I knew that was on.
The sewer cigarette.
Renee, will the bids for the property and the, public meeting be up here or down
No,
at
at the school.
Everything is gonna be at the
Yes,
school that night?
yes, everything is at the school.
Thank you. And I would just like to give a shout out to Barbara and Lauren Munson for undertaking
Yes.
the cemetery
Undertaking,
project.
yes,
Undertaking.
I couldn't help
Oh,
it.
come
Yes.
on.
The cleaning of the stones and the restoration
Yes.
and.
There were, the pictures were gorgeous.
They were
on
nice.
Yes, that was really wonderful.
Gorgeous.
So thank you, Barbara, and
Can
then,
I share something
Yes.
else if I could? First, I want to thank the community that came out and helped. We got an outpouring of people, and we are going to hold 2 more classes in September. That's how many people are
Good,
interested. But I'd like to share with you, we had somebody from Dr. Bennett's family here today who has been trained by MOCA. One is from Portland, and one is from Richmond, Maine. They have worked all day today cleaning more stones over there because they want to help. Her family came from here, and as I said, they're members of Dr. Bennett's family. I want to thank Renee and the ladies here because they took people's names and gave out the registration forms. And God bless the post-American Legion women who provided lunch for everybody. That was just a godsend. We were tired. It was a very hot day, the hottest day we've
hottest day
had.
of the year.
But everybody that signed up came out, and thank you to the American Legion, and thank you to the town hall ladies for helping us. We're gonna get more of it done in September.
It was the auxiliary. Was it?
The Williams Auxiliary made the lunch
Yeah.
for us. It was wonderful.
Great. And hopefully we get some more help for the next class.
Any,
I've already got people lined up, and they're saying they wanna sign up.
okay, committee updates?
Yes.
You done?
No, I have to see the calendar, because I'm not really sure what, it's the 4th week in September, but I'm not sure the
I
date
don't
is.
remember what you did.
September 23rd at 4:30 p.m. in Many Beths at the post office will be our first meeting of this season, of this year for the Down East EMS.
Are you staying on?
Now, I would like to stay on. I wasn't going to, but I've talked to Eddie and a bunch of them, and where I've been on it for so long, they, you know, like to have me. So
We would
I'm
love to have you.
willing to stay on. I asked Bobby if he'd take it, and I'm sorry, Bobby, but I would like to stay on, if you will have me.
Of course. That's great. You still need a backup though. Bobby's your backup, right?
Yep, you'd be the alternate.
Jason, Harbor Board on
Harbor
the
Board,
26th?
26, 6 o'clock.
Yes, very good.
Megan, I thought.
Recycle, Rebecca,
Yep, go on.
recycle meeting, September the 13th, that's Friday the 13th,
You don't wanna do
4 o'clock.
it. You don't wanna do it. Friday the 15th.
Ah, yeah, come on.
Dan?
Revolving loan, I think has still been on a, for at least summer, as needed, schedule, unless they booked something last meeting, when I was on the high seas. I don't think so, so,
We got town election on that
Yeah.
Tuesday,
yeah,
probably August 5th.
so.
Well, yeah, August 5th is the shellfish. I don't know why someone knows, but you know.
Yeah.
Shellfish is August 5th, at first Monday, that's always the first Monday in the month at 6. That's August 5th. We don't have any safe harbor meetings right now, we're just saying prayers. And
Is there another AOS
September
meeting?
15th.
Yes, no, we're gonna meet again on August the 14th at 4 p.m. We had to move it because the town meeting is on the 7th, it should have been then, so we're going a little bit a week later, okay?
Barbara, do you want to give a little update on the Economic Development Committee, the
Are you
stone?
talking to me?
I'm sorry. Rachel.
uh-oh, she's sitting next to me.
I was wondering why you were looking there.
The Donald Stockford dedication stone. Is
Oh,
there-
yes,
yeah.
yes.
It's finally gonna go back.
Yeah, I know that Denise,
Wow.
we took the stone down to Jesse Salisbury. He's working on it. Denise has picked an area in the park, sent it to Jesse. I have not heard from Jesse. We haven't heard back from him. But I know that they are working diligently on that
Well,
plan.
that's fantastic.
Yeah.
Thank
And
goodness.
we're thinking of doing some kind of
Definitely.
dedication, like a
Absolutely.
gathering,
Rededication.
you know.
Absolutely need a
Yes.
rededication.
Yes.
It's a
Well,
long time
and-
coming with this stone.
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you for
Yes.
doing that.
Lucky Tigger will be so happy.
That is so nice. So public comment?
Sorry. So after my last meet with you guys, I
took a moment to look at some things, and just a few things I want to share with you, and then I'll leave it be. I even printed in color.
Oh, wow.
Because the graphs just didn't look good in black and white.
Oh, thank you.
So, I just wanted to let you know that I met with the board, and the LCOC just wants to know that, you know, we don't look as community drawn on lines on that. And that we strive to engage the community in Lubec and surrounding areas. So we search for grants annually, and they're used to support all our programs. So the grant funding and fundraising, donations and fees finance the child programs, which include the after school and the summer rec. And this is the thing I wanted the town to know. So when I started looking backwards at funding for camp, all the child programs since the inception of the LCOC have had their largest donation for every program from a donor-designated Maine Community Foundation grant. And those monies come from a couple that don't live in Lubec, they live in an adjoining town. I just want you to know that. They have funded primarily every child program in the history. Maybe some graphs. They all look the same if I kept going back. I wanted you to look at our food pantry. Gave you a lovely little grant of who are the recipients of all that work. I just showed you the funding on the front for the summer rec program that's happening right now. Biggest chunk of money came from that donor-directed Maine Community Foundation grant. And do you happen to know their wishes on giving scholarships to Trescott and Campobello children?
They have no concerns over how the money is spent, it's given to the program.
And you're feeling then everyone should,
So I'll be finished. So I just wanted you to see the next graph there, the 2019 Summer Rec SRP homes. Those are the kids, we have 41 kids registered right now. Those are the towns they all come from. Summer Rec funding for 2018 was looking the same as Summer Rec funding for 2019, looked the same as Summer Rec funding for 2017, 16, 15. So the after school grant funding for 2019 sits right now with that same donor designated Maine Community Foundation grant being the largest chunk of money. The next one coming from the Robert T. Keller Foundation, which is a New Mexico based funding agency. We have a resident donor who gave a donation this year. That resident donor is a person from away, just so you know. So the after school program grants for 2018 look similar. And then I gave you a final little piece on the bottom there of, in the letter that was submitted for the town report, we talk about over 250 hours of volunteer time happens at the LCOC every month. Just giving you a breakdown of where people come put their time in there. Majority of it is in our food pantry, but we've had volunteers who've done fixes on the building. Our board does volunteer all their time. We have volunteers in the after school program. We have volunteers for the meal of the month program, for the thrift store, for cleaning in the building, and for the volunteers, for the literacy volunteers. So I wanted you to know that. I wanted to welcome you all to come to the ice cream social tomorrow, or the annual barbecue next Thursday. And finally, as a Lubec taxpayer, looking at my $7.06, I think it breaks down to as my part of that $12,000, I'm really okay if it funds a kid from Campobello or Trescott or Whiting. That's my point. Thanks.
What's involved in the literacy volunteer program?
So Literacy Volunteer of Washington County has been in existence like forever. They actually, my understanding, was associated with Machias Adult Ed up until the contract moved to Axiom.
Yeah.
So they were kind of inactive because they lost their home. So Eileen Campbell, their director, actually had an informational meeting at the library last year that I attended. And she started a tutor program. So she has 4 women that have shown up every Thursday at the LCOC now that they are now prepared to offer literacy services to anybody who's looking for it. And they have volunteered in the summer rec program, all program long. The kids have been doing cursive writing with them.
Oh, great.
Yep.
Great.
Yep. Absolutely.
do we have another public comment? Thank you. Thank you, by the way.
You're welcome.
Carol, may I ask a question?
Why are you sitting behind the pole?
Because I have my leg up, I had a meeting.
Oh, okay, never mind, that's fine, good enough answer.
My question is, and I appreciate that Nancy has shared some information with you, but she's also said that all the people who come to the food pantry and to the summer rec program and so on and so forth are basically all volunteers. So the grants that they're getting of $20,000 from someone who lives in Trusted, and everybody else, our $12,000 that we give, where is that money going for if everybody is volunteering their
So the
services?
food pantry is total volunteer. Our summer rec and after-school program is all paid staff.
That's what I wanted to know. You said that you have volunteers there. And
Oh, we have one volunteer that shows up every week to do something with the kids through the after-school program on that day of early release when we have a volunteer that comes in to fill, although this year that'll probably be different because Linda is now retired. And then we have, you know, people like Wanda that come in once in a while and do something, so on average that's the piece. We have paid for all of those people.
when you say paid for the other, I just want a clear understanding. Again, I understand people volunteer at the food pantry. The summer rec gets a lot of people who come down and do things for the summer rec children, and they're all volunteers. The lady, I believe, who's teaching sewing down there
We have 2 volunteers right now in
is
the summer rec program.
volunteering.
Yeah.
You have somebody teaching gardening. You said that you have someone who cleans the building for nothing. Actually, you're bartering with them for space, and bartering under the federal law is income to one, so your income one end and paying in another.
Yeah.
So it's not exactly free.
No.
So I
Federal's
just
a barter.
wanted a clear understanding from the board's perspective, what are we paying this money for? It's obviously now, we understand from Nancy, is all salaries. It's not going to what's going on.
No, well, no, I didn't say it's all salaries. I said that our children's programs are supported by paid staff. The expenses for summer rec and after school, besides their part of the utility pieces in the building, there's supplies for kids, there's food. We feed them breakfast and lunch at summer rec. We feed them in the after school program. There is.
Are you gonna continue to get that money, food, that money for the food?
So actually what you all were talking about was the CACFP program, which is the Community Adult Child Food Supplement Program, which is run through the Department of Education. So when I came here a year ago, the LCOC was in bad standing and under an order of repair for a bunch of things. So from August through September, we did a corrective action plan and went back into good standing and supplemented income for the after-school program from September to March, where we started looking at things again. So the Department of Education and the USDA has put some really stringent guidelines around what is reimbursable in regards to a meal. They actually were supposed to go into effect last October, but there was such difficulty in providers to meet those requirements that they kicked it back a year, but it is really in place. So to reimburse the almost $3 a meal, the 5 components are a whole bunch of new, like whole grain and a lot of expensive stuff, to be perfectly honest, that kids don't eat. So we attended mandated trainings in March as well as in, I think it was April. And the state has a new software system that there's an expectation of buying. And the state, you now had to submit your nutrition labels and your ingredients is for your recipes. So in looking at the administrative time that was necessary to submit for that less than $3 a meal, after September through March of looking at it, the decision was that it was just cheaper to not go through that program, so we did not. We're in good standing. We could go back if we want. To be perfectly honest, last year the after-school program averaged about 10 kids a week, and it's not worth the investment in it. And looking at the numbers of summer camp last year, and I put in those submissions because that was part of the problem, the time and investment and the payback is absolutely, if you had 100 kids, maybe, you know what I mean, but small numbers, fiscally not responsible.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
May I just share something? Nancy, are you talking about feeding the kids after school?
Yep.
Okay, what happened to the program for breakfast and lunch that we didn't have this year?
That's the same program.
Okay, that program pays $2 and change for a breakfast for someone.
Right, less
And
than,
it pays $4 for them, excuse me, and I can give you the documentation, for a lunch,
right, it's,
okay?
so it's like
I
$3
agree
a
with you
meal.
that it is a lot of paperwork, However, this year, by not applying, you had to pay your cook and assistant cook out of the donation money, where last year you could have, they billed that the cook and the assistant cook to that program.
So actually, last
you
year
spent
did not
money.
work out that way, Barbara, because I did the submission for it, but I'm not gonna explain, I'm not going into
I'm
that. It
only
was a
telling you.
decision made, so, and the only other piece I would share is that free lunch USDA program. I also looked, in all the histories that you ran it in your summer rec program, you had one person show up that was not enrolled in the summer rec program. And it's the same person who shows up this year, we've got.
But it's
It's
open
not
to,
a-
like, it's open to anybody up to.
It is
18.
open to anybody, if
So they
anybody
don't have
walked
to
in
be
the
in
door
the
now,
program.
we feed them too, but you had
Exactly.
nobody in the history come that wasn't in the summer rec program.
So my other question, if I could ask the board, is, then if it's not worth it, then why did WA pick it up this year? Why did Rose Gaffney pick it up this year? You all know, especially Carol, no offense to point you out, what grant paperwork is. You can get buried in it. But if it provided food so much, and it provided that you could write off the expense for your cook and your assistant cook, which this year had to come out of the funds that were collected, why not just have to do the paperwork? Especially since other schools have picked it up. It must be worthwhile if
Because they have a
picked it up.
larger number of kids and they're a school, and they can buy from Dennis or they can buy from
We're a school.
Cisco, which we don't have big enough orders to even
We're a
consider
school.
buying from them. School systems.
We have it there. They
Right,
have it
but
there.
the LCOC is not part of the school.
Well,
I'm
I
not
think we
arguing
have
with
someone else who wants to speak.
Thank you.
Thank you, Barbara, but I don't think the board is here to
No, I'm
micromanage
not. I just wanted to ask
LCOC.
that.
I think we just wanted to know what
Well, now you
12,000
There you
was,
go.
and not all of that other,
Yeah.
is a little bit too much. Wanda?
Oh, I had one question for the board, is we're wondering for the Pirates Festival Committee, is there a portion that we can close off downtown for that day?
What day is it gonna be on?
It's August 31st, that's Saturday.
You have to, well, you're gonna need to talk to, well, I think we're gonna need to canvass the businesses and see, was it closed off
No.
before?
Yeah, they closed off Front Street in the past,
When-
not the
yeah.
whole thing, a portion.
Right, so what would be, like, just right in front of Cohills Water Street Tavern?
Well, probably down more towards this end maybe, Carol, because they have to, one of the people we were talking to said they have to get into their boats, that's mandatory. So
Well,
if
you
we
have to let
didn't
them into the boats, yeah.
Yeah.
They can go down Pleasant,
around, but if
and
we-
they can go in the other way.
but maybe towards this side of town.
From what time to what time, Wanda?
Well, it would probably be, we don't have a set schedule,
And is
yet
it the
to-
invasion weekend, Labor Day weekend? So you're talking about the Saturday of Labor Day weekend?
Well, I think it's the Saturday before for Lubec, August 31st. Yeah,
Yeah, it's all over.
Well, that's the Labor Day weekend.
yeah,
The invasion is always the Saturday of Labor Day weekend, and it is August 31st, but that is Labor Day weekend. So traditionally, that is just a big mess down there everywhere, anywhere with the water and the kids. I think you have to close down. They did the tug of war and all that, and,
yeah.
I mean, you have to have something there, so I'm not sure
Well, I can.
how
do
you're
that.
gonna close by the post office. I don't,
Yeah, well,
I think to Main Street, we'd have to run it by
yeah.
the two businesses
It'll be
there, because
that-
I know the hardware store is definitely opposed to the street being closed on the
Yeah,
Saturday.
no, I don't think we're talking about that in the town. You know where the Rexall is, or across from the Lubec Land Trust, maybe from there towards the post office.
In front of
Anything
the
that keeps
library.
those motorcycles from running down Water Street makes me
Yeah.
happy.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know. I don't think we can make a decision
We are having
tonight.
a group come in this year, the Defenders, that, they come in to support, they have a cause, so that's a good thing. But anyway, we had to ask you, so
Yeah.
let's think about it.
I don't think it's a no, I think we need a little more information as to timing and what exact streets, and kind of like how the marathon, they
Yeah.
give us the specific
Yeah.
times, and we,
Yeah,
so,
we can bring, definitely bring
Yeah.
that up.
yes, well, I think we're just gonna table the decision. How does that sound?
Yeah, great, thank you.
Anything else? I wanted to thank Nancy again for coming in and giving that
Yes, thank you,
clarification. I
Nancy.
really appreciate it.
Thank you for the graphs. That was,
I'm getting really good at that.
picture is worth 1,000 words.
Yes, it is. We all done?
I think
I'd
we
just
are.
like to, this is my last televised meeting, and I'd just like to thank everybody for the support over the 28 years that I've been up here and been kind of mouthy at times, and kind of rude at other times, and,
Joanne, we're
you
gonna
know.
miss you, Joanne.
well, anyway, I'd like to thank the town for all their support.
Thank
The
you.
town has
Thank you. And I would like to invite everyone to the annual town meeting, August 7th. It would be really a wonderful thing. It's a community affair. It really, it's very discouraging to come there after a year's worth of work and have nobody there. So you don't have to just come out because there's a problem. It would be great if you came out as a community support. And if you want to bring a pizza, we might want some pizza there. I think I know somebody who wants pizza. We could have a little pizza party. Sometimes it drags out, we might get hungry, so I just
Now, we're
like
not gonna have pizza unless we have beer, and we can't have beer at school, so that's it.
Well, we can have water or soda.
root beer.
Nope, it's on, but anyway, please come out. It's at 6 o'clock on the 7th, and don't forget to vote. There are people on the ballot that are running for school board, water department, selectmen, and it's your civic duty to come out and vote. Thank you.
I'm gonna miss you all.
We'll miss you, Joanne, big time.
Moving over to the school board.
Make a motion, we adjourn.
Yes, I'll second it.
All right, all in favor?
Holy.
Miss you like a rattlesnake.
Can't see.